Good morning. Welcome to this week's episode of Bris Golf Live. I'm your host, Michael Brisbane. I'm a PGA professional and director of instruction at Isaiah City Golf Course in Mobile, Alabama. In today's episode, excuse me, I hit the button wrong there. In today's episode, we are going to discuss a little bit more of what we talked about in the first two episodes, the pre-swing and the backswing pivot. I'm going to do a little swing analysis of a person that is kind of in their first lesson and then somebody doing what I want them to do correctly. Okay, we're then going to move into a little more discussion on practice habits and your thought process in practice. And then we're going to finish up today on a really fun segment. I think it's going to be something new. I think it's going to be hysterical. Hopefully it makes a little bit of a point. I think you'll like it too. Some of you may take it to heart because I may be talking about you. But let's cue up that intro now at the proper time and let's get started. Okay, so we discussed in the first two episodes of Bris Golf Live the pre-swing fundamentals, and then last week we talked about the backswing and the backswing pivot particularly. So I wanted to do a little video analysis today of two players who are, we're both taking golf lessons from me, and just to show you a really good example of what I'm talking about, and then the results of not having a good backswing pivot. So let's go into the live stream here. Excuse me, the other monitor didn't want to come up. There we go. So let's discuss these two people right here. And my face is going to be turned over to the side because I'll be looking at my other monitor. So two very good athletes here. Guy on the left, Dallas Davis. Dallas was a starting quarterback at University of South Alabama for a couple of years. Dallas came to me for a couple of golf lessons. This was back when COVID had just broke out. And he came for about 3 golf lessons and then moved away. I wish that Dallas had stayed around because obviously Dallas was a very good athlete and had some potential in golf. Guy on the right, Wesley Hunter. Wesley played college golf at a local school here in Mobile called Spring Hill. I worked with Wesley for several years while he was at Spring Hill. He's now moved up to Birmingham, Alabama, and Wesley is continuing to try and play golf for a living. So let's look at these two guys and just see what it is that I see on a normal basis. So let's start with Dallas. If you look over here at Dallas on the left, this is a typical setup that I see from somebody that comes to me for a first-time lesson. You're going to notice I've got a line drawn straight up from the golf ball. Dallas's head is pretty much right on top of that line. His head is down, okay, because everybody thinks you got to keep your head down in the golf swing. If you look at Dallas's hips are very much level. Okay, I'm going to draw a little line across here. They're very much level in the swing. And if you look at Dallas's spine angle, he is very much just vertical in his spine angle. So if we go back and we think about what I talked about in my second edition of Bris Golf Live, when we were talking about in the first edition too, I'm just the pre-swing fundamentals and the pivot. Let's look at Wesley over here, and let's look at how much of a better position he is in. You can see I've got the line drawn straight up from the golf ball again, but notice the difference in the position of Wesley's head. Wesley's head is behind the golf ball. If we look at Wesley's hips, Wesley's left hip is slightly higher than Wesley's right hip. He has got a nice little hip tilt to his hips, which gets his spine tilted away from the target. You can see that he has got a spine that is tilted away from the target. Okay, so big difference there in the setups. Now, let me show you what Dallas's setup causes in the backswing. So Dallas is going to take the club back, and you're going to see that he's trying to make a turn, but he's really keeping his head on top of the golf ball. His left shoulder is really not behind the ball. He's still pretty much right on top of it. Now he's gotten his right hip has gotten a little bit lower than his left hip. And you can see his spine angle is still pretty much straight up and down. Okay. If you look at it closely, you can see that he's got more weight on his left foot. Okay. He's got more weight on his left foot at the top of the backswing, which is not what we want. We want that weight on your right side. Now, let's watch Wesley's backswing, and you're going to see a difference. So Wesley is going to start to turn, and his left shoulder moves over his back foot. Okay, so if I draw a line down from Wesley's left shoulder, you can see how much farther behind the ball Wesley has gotten with his left shoulder. If we look at Wesley's hips, Wesley's left hip has remained higher than his right hip. This is going to make it much easier to make a pivot going forward with this backswing position. And you'll notice that Wesley's spine angle is still tilted away from the golf ball. Okay, so Wesley is in the desired position at the top of the backswing. Dallas is in the more, what I would call the more normal backswing position for golfers, the one that we don't really want. Now, I know we've only talked about the backswing so far in any of these live streams, but I want you to see what happens to Dallas in his downswing, okay? What this backswing position is causing and why it's so important to fix it. So Dallas is now going to start down, and he's going to try and make a little transition into that left foot, which he was already on the left foot too much. Now he's out on the left foot even more, okay? You can see that Dallas has got at least half of his body, if not more, in front of the golf ball, all right? And now watch what happens to him as he starts to turn. Pay attention to his head and his shoulders in relationship to that yellow line and what happens to them, okay? So as he starts to come down, he's in front of the ball. He's too much on that left side. Now his shoulders start to scrunch up around his ears, and his head starts to move up and backwards. Now he is leaning way too much on that back foot. So that would be what I would call the classic reverse pivot, okay? And Dallas and I had a really nice discussion about it, and I was putting it into football terms. You know, I was talking to Dallas about, you know, Dallas, what would happen if you put all of your weight on your left foot and they told you now throw a football? And he says, well, I couldn't do it because all I would have left to do is use my arm. I'd never get any power. And I said, exactly. And then I said, and then what's the worst thing they talk about a football quarterback when he's making when he's back in the pocket throwing, that he's throwing off of his back foot? Well, that's what's happening to him in the downswing. So he's on that front foot too much in the backswing. Therefore, in the downswing, he's trying to stay behind the ball, which makes his weight start moving back over his back foot. Now, in theory, he's throwing a ball off of his back foot. And again, he said, I'm going to generate no power. And I said, you're right. Now, it's a shame that I don't have any of the videos of Dallas in his next couple of lessons because he really, really made some great changes. COVID struck, the golf course shut down, and I was limited to teaching just on the driving. I'm just out on the golf course. So I wasn't taking my computer and my camera out on the golf course. I was doing everything with my iPad at the time. So I don't have any video of Dallas getting better, but he really, really improved over the 3 lessons. And that's why I said I was sorry to see him leave because I really thought he had some potential. Now, let's look at the difference in what Wesley does in his downswing. Because he's gotten himself in a much better position in the backswing, he's behind the golf ball. He's now going to be able to unwind his left hip. Head stays behind the ball. He's unwinding, but as he's doing all of this, he is gradually moving into that left side and never, ever, ever has to fall backwards. He's continually moving forward. Okay, so I'm going to back Dallas back up to impact position. It was just a really good thing that Dallas was a good athlete. He had good hands. Most golfers in this situation would have a really big flip, okay, at the bottom. So here's Wesley coming into impact, and you're going to just see the complete difference in their positions. Wesley's head is still up. His shoulders and everything have just turned around his spine. He's delivered the golf club with much more lag than Dallas has. And now he is going to be able to continue to move through the ball. His right shoulder keeps moving towards the target. His great pivot, look at Wesley's flexibility, being able to keep that back foot on the ground for so long. But now his pivot is going to start pulling that back foot up off the ground. Right shoulder still going forward. We see a lot of Wesley's back and getting himself into just a beautiful finish over top of his left foot. Okay, again, Dallas just moving forward. Everything gets scrunched up because he was in front of the ball. And look how much less of Dallas's back we see. We see a lot more of Wesley's back, a lot less of Dallas's back. So there is the example of why I wanted to talk about what I talked about in the first 2 episodes, okay? I find it very, very important that we all get ourselves into a great setup position and then a really, really good backswing position, okay? It just makes that forward swing much, much easier to do, and it's just going to give you a whole lot more success. Okay, so I want to just talk a little bit about practice again. I had one of my junior students send me a text earlier this week. We had a lesson last Saturday. This young man's a really nice player. He's a senior in high school. He's going on to play college golf at a junior college locally. And he's got a beautiful golf swing, hits the ball very nicely. Sometimes he thinks a little too much out on the golf course and gets his thoughts off of what we're working on and onto something else. So we were working again at something in his backswing, getting in a better arm position in the backswing. We're trying to get his arms a little more away from him, and that will be a future episode of Bris Golf Live, what the arms need to look like. But this is what we were working on with him. And he sent me a text asking me what he should be thinking about at impact, or giving me a specific thought. Should I be thinking about this at impact? And my reply to him was, why do you want to be thinking about what you're doing at impact? What does that have to do with what we were working on Saturday? Keep trying to fix what we were working on. The impact will take care of itself. And so I actually was sitting here in my desk when he contacted me, and I wrote this little note down so I would remember to talk about this. And it just says, stick to the task at hand. And this is something that golfers really need to learn to do. You have to figure out what you need to fix and just stick to the task at hand and keep doing it until you've got it fixed. So much of the other problems will solve themselves, but we as human beings, it's very difficult to stick to that task because we will hit a bad shot. Then well, what did I do here? What did I do there? Did I do something different? Should I be working on this? Stick to the task at hand. Keep things simple. I'm going to use an old line that the late Hank Johnson used to say. Hank was a great golf instructor. I was very fortunate to be able to watch Hank teach and talk to Hank a bunch. Matter of fact, my last job at a real golf course where I wasn't just a teaching professional, I worked at Greystone where Hank was the head professional or the master professional, whatever he was. He was the director of golf, one of those things. And so I would get to watch him teach golf. And he had this line that he would use in his lessons, and I always loved it, and I laughed about it, and I still talk about it now. But inevitably in a lesson, somebody's going to hit a bad shot. And they're going to hit a shot, and they're going to turn to their instructor, and they're going to say, what did I do there? What did I do wrong? And so it would always work like this in that lesson with Hank. It would be there. The person would hit a bad shot, and they would say, well, Hank, what did I do wrong there? And his reply would always be, why? You want to do it again? And I would start laughing, to myself. I didn't want to be laughing. And the student would look at Hank and kind of be like, what was that? And then Hank would explain, because it doesn't really matter what you did. It doesn't change what we're trying to do. Think of it this way. You just didn't get it done. So you're out there practicing. You're just doing repetitions. Don't get your mind off on trying to figure something else out. Stick to the task at hand. I'll use another just quick example. I was at the Masters one year, and this goes a long time ago. I haven't been to the Masters in quite some time. But I was there one year, and Vijay Singh was out on the driving range practicing. And this was long enough ago that Vijay may have been #1 in the world at the time. He was really on a roll at that point in time and was winning majors. And he was down on the range hitting balls. And Vijay was always known as, one of the best practicers out there. And so I walked down and I was watching Vijay hit balls. And he had this practice station set up that was helping him with his swing plane. It was trying to keep him from getting too much underneath the club. And I can't really describe what he was doing right here, but he had this really nice little practice station set up. And he just sat there, was hitting ball after ball after ball after ball in this practice station, just making sure that his club was on the correct path, that he was swinging on the right plane. So I eventually left and started walking around the golf course. Well, it turns out it was like 4 years later, I think, I went back to the Masters. So, here we are 4 years later. And I go down to the driving range, as was my normal habit, because I love to stand there and watch them practice. And I look down, and there's Vijay down there practicing, and he's got the same practice station set up that he had 4 or 5 years earlier. It was the same. Now, here's a guy that is #1 in the world, one of the best players, wherever he was ranked at that time, winning majors. And you would think, as good as he is, that, well, he could have done that drill for a week or two or a month and he would have got it figured out and he wouldn't have to do it anymore. But what it shows is that our tendencies are our tendencies. And Vijay must have had a tendency to get his golf club underneath the plane coming in, and he felt it was very important to monitor that. So he just kept practicing that way. I see my students and other students. We have a female instructor at the golf course, and our head professional teaches, and you watch them give golf lessons and see what they tell their student to do. And then 2 days later, you see the student out on the driving range just hitting balls, and they're not doing what the instructor asked. They're now just out there whacking balls, trying to hit good shots. So the whole point here, as my note says, stick to the task at hand. Figure out what it is that you need to fix and fix it. Don't worry about the golf ball quite so much. The golf ball will take care of itself. If you fix that problem, then you will improve and you'll be able to move on. Okay, so now for the last segment of the show. And this is the segment. If you've noticed my intro, the last little thing that pops up says random thoughts. And I've had a couple comments about that, and people say random thoughts. And I said, well, this is going to be my liberty in the show of being able to talk about what I want to talk about. It doesn't have to be golf instruction. It can be anything. But I'm going to start off with this little segment, and it's going to be called Don't Be That Guy. Okay? I'm going to talk about some of my pet peeves here. I've been in the golf business a long time. I've been a PGA professional for 25 years. I started working at a golf course when I was 13 years old. And you just see the same things over and over and over again of people doing stuff that, first of all, they know they're not supposed to do, but they do it anyway just because they want to or because they're lazy or whatever. And this is going to be my area of just talking about these things and saying, don't be that guy. So here we go. Let's talk about don't be that guy. My biggest pet peeve, one of them, is where people park the golf cart. It's very simple, people. When you're around the tee or you're around the green, put the cart on the path. That's what they're for. Here I've got 3 different pictures of people at my golf course. And I work at the municipal golf course, and this is not strictly for the people that play the municipal golf course, because I've played very nice country clubs, resorts and stuff, and the golfers there all do the same thing. But you're going to see here 3 examples of people that got their carts parked in the wrong place. So this guy here, the cart path is on the other side of the tee box. You can see the hole sign back there. Okay, why they have their cart drug around to this side, I've got no idea. Here's a guy, the cart path is over to this side of the green, to the right side of the green. This is number 9. He's driven around the left side of the green, got his cart on the back of the green. And here's some guys, again, on a tee box. You can see the cart path right there. They're standing on the tee. It's not that far away, but they have decided to drive their cart around the other side of the tee box. Why, again? I've got no idea. It makes no sense. The cart path is right there. It's two steps from the tee box. Why they've got their cart over there, I don't know. But here's what's happening is they end up creating a big worn area that the superintendent can't maintain. So, people, when you're at the golf course, it's your course. This is where you play. Treat it like it's your course and help keep the thing in shape. Put your carts on the cart path around the green and around the tees. Now at Azalea City, we don't have cart paths out in the fairways. We do on the par 3s, but because we're in Mobile and the grass grows so well, there's a big scatter pattern and we don't have a problem. But around the tees and around the greens, put your cart on the path. And don't be that guy, okay? Don't be the guy that we talk about in the golf shop. All right, so there you go. There was my rant for this week. I'd like to thank y'all for being here. Okay, I'd like to thank for those that have been watching the replays. Okay, please keep watching. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, please do. Hit that and ring that notification bell. You'll get notified when I go live. I'm enjoying this process. I think I'm having some fun, so I'm going to keep doing it. If you have any comments or any suggestions about what you'd like me to talk about, put them in the comments below. I'd love to read them. If you have an instance of don't be that guy, let me know. I'd love to talk about that guy. All right. So I'd like to thank again my one sponsor, Marketing by MM. She's the one that helped me start this whole process and gave me the confidence to go live. If you have any need for marketing, you need some help with your social media, her link is in the description down below. I hope y'all have a great week. I hope you get out on the golf course this weekend and get to play. If you don't get to play, get out and practice. And I'll see you next time. So, for now, we'll see you later. And don't be that guy.